the budget. Often quite a fiery and anxiety-loaded topic when it comes to almost any design or renovation project. And I'm here to show you that it actually doesn't have to be if you put the correct steps in place before you start any design work. Not sure how? Well, that's exactly why I'm here. I'm going to show you some of my insider tips and tricks on budgeting when it comes to budgeting for your project work, tips that you can use to begin and avoid tragedy on your projects. Which leads us into today's video, how to avoid overspending on your design projects. Welcome back to our channel. As I'm sure most of you are aware, my name is Robin Santini, and I am here to give you all the insider tips and tricks to the design world. What are we waiting for? Let's begin. We all know that budgeting for a home renovation can be a tricky procedure. And with all that amazing inspiration on social media, it doesn't always reduce the confusion. So to make this process a little bit easier for you, I'm going to list some of my tried and tested tips and tricks below. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to a brilliant quote by Rosetta Wamambe. Budgeting is not for people who do not have enough money. It's for everyone who wants to ensure that their money is in fact enough. This is something to think about as you start your renovation and design journeys. Hold it close, as I think it's a really great quote to work with. Let's begin with a guideline to avoid overspending on your projects. Step 1. Set goals and outline the project. This is your interrogation section. Start with a project outline. Decide what actually needs to be done on that project. Why are you starting this project? Why? What is the necessity around this project? The answer to this question should be very clear and should set the foundation to your project. Obviously, there are a variety of reasons and answers that can come from this question. Perhaps you have got damage to your house that needs to be fixed right away. Perhaps there's a space that's not functioning correctly and you need to amend that so that it does function in the best possible way, in the best possible manner. Right, so whatever the reason for your renovation project, you are wanting to start creating a list of goals to answer these questions. What you're going to do is you're going to start writing these goals down and answers to these questions, and you're going to keep that little list close to you right throughout your renovation project. That is going to help you stay on track and stay on budget. Right, from here, we're going to take a look at how I typically create my list, and I'm going to show you how to create your very own goal setting list. Firstly, you want to start by asking yourself, why are you doing this renovation? What is the need for the renovation? The next question is, what can I actually afford? This is the area that you need to be really realistic. If for whatever reason you need more time to save, then I would suggest taking the time, saving up the finance to be able to do your renovation, but do not rush anything. Question number 3, is there a timeline to my project? Are we under any time pressure? For example, is there damage to an area that needs to be fixed right away? Or is this a project that I just want to do and I've been waiting to do for a while? That is essentially going to save you money. Time equals money. Question number 4, what are the must-haves on this project? So here you're going to separate the priorities versus the wants. Moving to question 5, existing versus new. What elements can I keep? What can I use in the space? And what do I really need to purchase that is new? So if there's anything that you can keep, obviously that's going to save you incredible finance. And anything that you need new, you're going to add to this list. Question number 6, do I really like the design or am I being led by a trend? Right, so from here, once you've spent time answering and interrogating yourself with these questions, make a list on a piece of paper, on a Word document, whatever's easier for you, whatever you can use to keep by your side at all times, and make sure that you've been truthful by answering these questions. Why? Because at the end of the day, this is what is going to help you keep your budget intact. Step number 2, determine the budget figure. Here comes the tricky part, but it's a necessary part. Figure out exactly how you are going to finance this renovation. From the questions that we've just asked ourselves above, you are going to be able to establish 2 things. Firstly, what you are going to need to finance this project, how much this project is actually going to cost you, and secondly, what you can afford on this project. Why is this important? Well, it's going to help you make the educated decision on what finishes, appliance, and decor items you are able to use on your project within a restricted budget. Right, so how are we going to go about doing this? Let me show you exactly that. Firstly, you want to take a look at your current finances. Ask yourself, do I have enough cash to cover this renovation? If so, that's amazing. If not, my suggestion would be to wait and save until you do. I do not recommend rushing into anything that you cannot afford. If, however, the renovation is urgent, which we answered in our first set of questions, maybe it's a necessity, then you might need to look at taking out some sort of a home renovating loan. Number 3, it is incredibly important to keep the return on investment at the top of your mind when choosing a home renovation project. After all, if you are going to be spending $30,000, rands, or whatever your currency is, into a renovating project, and when you sell that home or that space, it actually doesn't give you a return on investment, this might be something that you need to rethink. Step number 3, research and bringing on the rule of threes. This is the point in the process where we're going to start asking for our quotations. And very important, we need to do our research here. Spend time researching how much each item and each area is going to cost, what it should cost, and what your contractors have in fact quoted you on. My number 1 tip here, and something that I absolutely live by, get 3 quotes for everything. 3 bits of information, 3 bits of advice, and 3 quotes. Something to be aware of here, when getting 3 quotes, you may notice a variety or a huge difference in these quotes or bid pricing. Not to worry, a little bit of research will help you fix that. Let's take a look at the how. Right, so in this step of the process, we are going to start by gathering our quotes from everyone. Do not leave any quotes off. Make sure that you've covered everything. If you are wanting a new table for your living room, get a quote for that, and in fact get 3 quotes for that. If you're wanting to retile your house, make sure that you're getting 3 quotes for that too. Make sure that you're including everything. Get your quotes. Number 2, be ruthless and never settle. What do I mean by this? Well, if you're feeling like you don't have enough information on something or you need additional information on that quote, ask the relevant questions, ask the contractor. And secondly, if you feel like something has come in at a price that's too high, ask the contractor or the person providing the quote why. Why is it higher than the previous quote? Number 3, create a folder where you can save and have all your quotations in one place. I typically like to have a folder on my desktop where I save all of my quotes, all of my information about that relevant project so that I've got it in one space. If I ever need anything or need to research or email anything, I pop onto that folder and there it all is. Next, you're going to want to print out, organize, and highlight all of your quotes. Highlight the information and the totals that are relevant to you on your project. Next, you're going to want to read and assess all the quotations. Right, so here's a handy tip. When selecting the quotation to use for your project, you are typically only going to be able to choose 2 of the following combinations. So as you can see on your screen, we've got speed, quality, and price. So if we're going by this rule, typically you will only be able to have, if you're selecting a good quality and a good price, you technically wouldn't have a fast supply for that product. If you're choosing a speedy service with a good price, typically you wouldn't have a good quality product. So make sure you're picking wisely. Step number 4, set up your budget and your budget tracker. This is the part of the process where we're going to start listing all the elements and prices of each item on a spreadsheet. We're going to tabulate the expenses and totals that occur on our project. Take a look below at some of the headings that I have used on my budget tracker. This budget tracker I have created on Excel on an Excel spreadsheet. Alternatively, you can pop online and find some free budget tracking templates. Firstly, I have an item description, and this is where I describe what the item is. For example, if I'm using new floor tiles to tile my kitchen, I would write there, item description, floor tiles, and then give a description of the tile. Next, I'm going to add the quantity of that item. So how many square meters or square feet am I wanting of that tile? Next, I'm going to add the unit price and the total price, followed by the delivery costs. So that would include shipping and freight. Next, I want to include labor and installation expenses. This is often an oversight, so be careful of that one. And underneath that, I'm going to add any tax or VAT that is applicable to that item. When it comes to your budget tracker at this point, you want to make sure that you keep referring back to your original question. What can I afford on this project? Make sure that everything is lining up and tallying. This is going to help you keep a close eye on what you can afford at all times. Moving on to our final step for today's video, make provisions, anticipate the unforeseen. And this is an incredibly important topic. A handy tip, most renovations actually end up costing a little bit more than originally anticipated. So be sure to have money or a set of money cushioned and set aside in case of emergencies. What emergencies, you may ask? Well, a variety of elements could pop up on your project, so let's take a look at exactly what those might look like. The variables are often part of the budget that cause the biggest problem, and most people don't factor these in at the start of the project, which is where most of your issues come from. My word of advice here is to make sure that you add an amount for each of these areas of variable. And something very important to remember, variables might change from country to country, so make sure that you do your research beforehand. Some of the variables that you might want to consider are labor and material, import and freight expenses, those can change substantially from country to country, delivery expenses. This is very important and one that I often find my clients make a mistake on. Everything that comes to the design or the site, project site, is going to have a delivery expense. Factor that in. And lastly, VAT and tax. Very important, and make sure that you've added that to your budget. My top tips to getting around these variables and making sure that you are including them in your budget are as follows. Firstly, you want to make sure that you've got a contingency fee of approximately 15% on top of your total budget fee. And secondly, you want to make sure that your variables are correctly estimated and researched properly. Make sure that you've spent the time researching all the possible variables and getting accurate pricing for each. And from here, you want to ask the questions. If you're unsure about anything, ask the supplier, ask the contractor, ask the person providing that service, are there any variables at this point? Is there anything that I need to budget or bank for? So, for example, if my total project fee came to $10,000 as an example, I would like to add approximately 15% as my contingency fee to the top of my new budget. This would make my new final budget amount $11,500. Essentially, that should be enough to provide you with a little cushion to avoid disaster on your projects. And there you have it, my budding designers. That is a complete guide to some of my favorite tips and tricks to avoid any budgeting disaster on my design projects. I hope they come into good use when you are creating your budgets for your very own projects. Please do leave comments below for any questions that you may have in this video or any information that you want us to produce new videos on. Remember, the only way that I know that you're enjoying these videos is if you're liking and subscribing, so please be sure to do so. Good luck on your design project, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.